Hi you guys! Today we're going to be learning how to draw a sunflower using Clip Studio Paint Pro. So let's get started. First we're going to create our new canvas by going to File, select New, and then for our file name we're going to name it Sunflower. And then for dimensions we're going to be doing 5,000 for the width, 5,000 for the height, and 600 dpi for the resolution, and then press OK. Now we're going to set up our grid system, so go to View and select Grid. Now let's go back to View and select Grid Settings, and then we're going to make sure that our grid is centered, and then our gap we'll put in 500 px, and then for the number of divisions we'll just leave it at 4, and then press OK. Next we're going to create the center of our sunflower. So go to the figure tool and make sure that ellipse is selected. For our fill options, we're just going to create a line only. And I've selected black for my color, and the size of my brush is 15. The start from center button is checked, but I'm going to uncheck the adjust angle after fix option because we're just doing circles. Let's go back to view and make sure that snap to grid is selected. And then we're going to go about here on our canvas, which is right there, and click and drag it out to create your center. Now I'm going to create an inner circle, so go back to that center of that circle and drag your cursor out until about there and let go. Now let's make our petals. So let's create a new vector layer. So new layer, vector layer. I'm going to name this V-petals. And then I'm going to use the ruler function, select symmetrical ruler, and make sure the number of lines is set to 12, and the line symmetry is checked off. So let's go ahead to our center of our circle and just click once. To make our petals, we're going to use the curve tool. So go to figure and select curve. Our brush size is 15, and I'm going to go ahead and go about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes above our outer circle. I'm going to click on that one of the lines, and I'm going to drag it about halfway between that next point. And I don't want my ruler to be snapped, so I'm going to go ahead and press Ctrl Z. Or if you're using the XP pen tablet, you could just use your shortcut function for undo. And then go to View and select or unselect the Snap to Grid function. Let's go back 7 squares high, and let's just click on that and then go about halfway between that next ruler point, let go, and I'm going to move my curve tool until I get the curve I want, and this is about where I want it to look for that petal. I'm going to go ahead and repeat about the same height for the other petal on the other line. So I'm just doing an arch, so I kind of know eyeball where I'm going to make that point. It's going to be about here. And I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to leave just a little bit of a gap between that curve line that I made last. Let go, and I'm going to move my curve tool until I get the petal shape that I want, which is about there. Now I'm going to edit our petals a little bit because it is a vector layer, and I can see that this is not connected when I zoom in, and this one is fine. It's a little bit crossed. So I'm going to go to my correct line tool, and I have connect line selected. Let's see. Let's zoom back out and see if it'll connect. It did, but it didn't make the shape that I wanted. So let's go ahead and undo that. And I'm just going to manually pinch and move them together. So let's go ahead and move my line. It's almost not centered. Okay, I like that. Now I'm going to draw my second row of petals. And to do that, I'm going to be using a new vector layer. So I'm going to call this layer V-petals 2. Now if you notice, the ruler isn't appearing in this vector layer. So let's go back to our ruler, and let's right click on that and select Show in All Layers. Now when we go back to our vector layer, our second vector layer, we'll see that the ruler appears. And that just saves us time from redrawing that ruler again. So let's go back to our curve tool, and I'm just going to go back and forth between these 2 points so I can find where I should start my midpoint of my second row of flowers. And I'm going to go ahead and drag it down to about here at that point, and then I'm going to move it like so until those are touching, those 2 curved lines are touching, and fix it to the canvas. And I'm going to go back to that same point, and I'm going to drag and repeat. Just meeting at that point, and I'm going to drag until it's about there. Perfect. So if we zoom in, we can tell our second row of flowers isn't very clean. It's bleeding into the center of our circle. But you're not going to have to worry about that because we're going to hide that behind our first row of petals. So let's go ahead and move on to our stem. So I'm going to create a new vector layer, and I'm just going to call it stem. And then I'm going to hide this ruler. So let's go back to that ruler, right click, and move it to show only when editing target. Let's go back to our stem layer, and I'm going to select the curve tool again, with brush size still 15, and I'm just going to draw a stem. So I'll start by making a curved line about here. And then I want a big strong stem for our sunflower, so we're going to go ahead and make another line about here and match that curve. Now let's move on to drawing our leaf. So still using the curve tool, I'm going to make a curved line about this long. I'll just do it slightly curved. I'm going to draw another line just below there, but I'm going to meet this point and then move my curved line so that it creates like a tapered point, like a bent toothpick. Now I have a couple options at this point. I can continue to just make just a simple curved line for our leaf. So I'm going to stop about here and make our curve that way. And then I'm going to go back to about the same point and drag it out and meet the point of the leaf, and then drag it until I get the shape that I want. Or I can go ahead and just use the pen tool and create more of a jagged line. So for example, I'm going to use a guide. So for this I'll just do a new raster layer, and I'm going to select blue. I'm going to go ahead and make, select the blue. Go ahead and just make my guidelines right here. I'm just doing this in a different layer because I'm going to hide it at the end. So that's my general shape that I'm going to be working towards. And then I'm going to go back to my V stem, and using black, I'm going to hand draw using a pen tool at the brush size 15. And I'm just going to hand draw some jagged lines following those blue guidelines that I created. Okay, I'll do it on the other side. It doesn't have to be perfect. The guidelines just gives me a little bit more control when I'm using my digital pen. There. Then we're done. We could just hide our guidelines. Let's go ahead and clean up our sketch and play around with some colors. So let's hide our second row of petals and then work on our first row of petals. So I'm going to delete the ruler. I'm going to combine this layer to the layer below, which had the center of our circle. And I'm going to go to the fill tool, which is this paint bucket here, and select yellow. And I'm just going to color in each of those petals. This is yellow. Perfect. Now let's work on our second row of petals. So go back to V Petals 2 and click on the eyeball button. And then we're going to go ahead and right click and rasterize it. Now I'm going to click and drag it underneath layer number 1 so that it hides behind that layer. And for our color, I'm going to go pick a shade deeper than our classic yellow and click on those remaining petals. Now we're going to go ahead and go hide this layer and then go back to layer number 1 and we're going to choose some browns to fill that in. So I could choose a brown color there and another brown color there. Let's move on to our stem. So that, I'm going to make sure I select the V stem layer and I'm going to choose a color green and I'm going to go back to actually our layer 1 and I'm going to lower the opacity and then go back to our V stem layer and I'm going to use the curve tool to connect this green line, and that will just prevent my green from filling the entire canvas when I'm ready to draw. Just make sure that these lines are connected. Perfect. And let me unhide my second row. That looks good. So I'm going to hide that again and return the opacity back to normal. I'm going to rasterize my layer so I can use the fill tool, and I'm going to drag it behind these flower petal layers. And then using my fill tool, I'm going to fill in that green. I'm going to unhide my second layer of flower petals. And I'm going to continue to fill in this green for our leaf. And you can play around with the different colors. So maybe you want like a little bit lighter color, like so. Get something that you like. Now at this point you can create some fine details. So for that I'm just going to create a new layer and using my pen tool, I'm going to use this dropper button just to pick that darker green color, and I can just do what I want. So maybe I want some lines this way. And then perhaps I want to maybe use a dropper tool here for the darker shade, and with my pen tool, draw some details here. I could do that. You can also choose to maybe fill in some patterns in the inside. So I'm going to use the auto select tool. I'm going to right click on the inside shade of that circle. So let me make sure I'm on the right layer. So that would be layer number 1, and select the inner circle. And then I'm going to open up my patterns, and I'm going to click and drag this grid tool right here, grid pattern, and I'm going to just increase that until I get the size I want, and then let go. And I could even choose to do that to the outer layer of my sunflower. So again, I could just hand draw this in, right, using a pen tool. Maybe I want some circles. I could hand draw those in, right? But let me undo that. Or I can pick a different pattern. Let's see if there's any like dot patterns. So click and drag into the auto select area. That looks pretty nice. So when I'm happy with my sunflower, all I do is I combine all the layers. Let's see. Oh, I have to delete this layer. Continue combining. Yes. And then I'm going to hide this. And I could do let's try a gradient fill. So new, a layer, and then do a gradient. And for this one, let's do a green. Let's make everything visible again. And back to our gradient layer. I can move this around. And play with the darker green, maybe. I like the lighter green better. There. Congratulations, you guys! You now know how to draw a sunflower using Clip Studio Paint Pro, and you can use these same techniques to draw different types of flowers. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, And if you want to get notified for any future videos, please make sure you hit that subscribe button below. So thank you so much again for drawing with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.